Hi and welcome back to the Rideshare Buddy YouTube channel. My name's Kevin and I'm just doing a quick recap down at the Uber Meet tonight that I went to at Cardiff. I had to leave early, well not early, I waited till the end and then as I was all tucked into the food and disappearing off, I had to head off because I had a Bristol Airport to do. Now I did record something on the way over to Bristol Airport, but the sound quality was so bad, I've had to redo it. So you'll have to excuse me if I keep glancing up at the TV, because I've got Cowboys vs Aliens on, Channel 4, just watching it now. But let's do a quick recap of the meet down at Cardiff City Football Club Stadium. Now, one of the big things that was approached and on the question and answer section was of course pay and driver pay, and there is no plans on increasing driver pay at the moment. But what surprised me was that evidently there's been 2 pay rises this year for drivers in Cardiff and the South Wales region, but both of them was really targeted at that surge, early morning surge period. I don't work that period, so I wouldn't know what sort of surges go on there. But evidently there was one earlier in the year and there was another one two weeks ago where they've boosted the surge payments to try and bring drivers out on that surge peak time period of mornings. So that's about all that's happened. They're not planning on doing it anymore. So pay is basically as it is. Now during their sort of talk and their pep talk period, they did say about a few things which are changing on the app. In some parts of the country it has already happened, but hasn't gone nationally yet, but it is going nationally. The first is the trip radar section is going to change. Some of you will have already seen it, but basically trip radar jobs are going to pop up very much like the one-to-one job offers that you get. So instead of having trip radars popping up and just having a postcode and a price and very little else, you'll get a map coming up like you do on your normal direct offers, showing where you are, the pick up and the drop off. And the layout will be very much the same as a one-to-one offer. And they said you probably won't notice whether it's a trip radar or a one-to-one offer by the design and the styling and the way it's presented. So that's something to look forward to. It will make it a lot easier because I do get a lot of trip radars, but you can never place it roughly about where about you are and where the jobs are unless you've got a memory that can hold all of the postcodes, which I don't. So that will be really good when it rolls out. Another aspect of the app that I'm looking at doing is giving much greater detail on the job address when it's presented either in trip radar or on a one-to-one at the acceptance screen. So before you accept it, you can actually see roughly where the job is in much greater detail. So you might have a street name or something like that. So that again will make it a lot easier to accept or deny jobs, because as you see at the moment all you get is a postcode, and if you don't know your postcodes you have a real problem in determining whether or not it's worth running for. One problem that was brought up is that when jobs come up either on trip radar or on a one-to-one, is it gives maybe a distance to the job of 1 mile, but when you actually accept the job it changes to about 2 miles. And that's basically because on the posting of the jobs, the distance is given as the crow flies. Whereas when you accept the job, you then get your route and the route distance, and that's what makes the difference. But it shouldn't be happening like that. They said it shouldn't happen that way. It should be based on route and not as the crow flies. So that's something I'm going to be looking into and try to improve on that. So that's going to be useful. Another thing that I was talking about in the pep talk was cash payments. Birmingham, it's been trialled out in the West Midlands area, and they are looking at maybe rolling it out nationally, but you will have the choice of whether you want to do cash payments or not. I won't. I don't want to be involved with cash, so I'll just deny and just won't get Fed jobs paying out cash. But I'm looking at cash payments because I think there's a big market there missing that they could tap into. I would suggest that it's probably not the best of markets that you want to tap into. But if that's the way they want to go, as long as me as a driver can opt out, I'm happy to do that. I'll just opt out. Now, the other thing that you've probably all seen on the weekly newsletter is that Uber is about to launch another EV promo scheme or promotion to get people to convert over to EVs. And they were saying that this is probably going to be the biggest global event that Uber has done to encourage drivers to move to EVs. So this is something to look forward to. Not quite sure what's going to happen, didn't give any details, but we've seen it in the newsletter saying that this promotion is coming and it's coming very soon. And it's going to be big and it's going to be quite major. So that's a useful thing to look out for. Especially as I'm moving to an EV tomorrow when I get the Ioniq 5. So let's look at some of the questions that was asked. Obviously pay, which I've dealt with. There's going to be no real movements on pay at all. I did ask if Uber Green was going to come to Cardiff, as I'm going for Green, get an EV. Once I get my EV, I'll be coming off Uber X. I shan't waste my time on Uber X because the payment isn't high enough to support the EV. Mainly because I don't have home charging. So my fuel price is going to boost up. My repayments are going to go up a little bit. And by moving up to EV, I'm moving up a classic car, and I'll be looking at increasing my profits to warrant that extra expenditure. So Uber X isn't paying enough in the mileage rates, so I'll be restricting myself to comfort. And I did ask, can you bring Uber Green to Cardiff? And the guy said, well, normally they wait for there to be sufficient EVs in the marketplace before they launch Uber Green, so that if a customer requests it, then they've got cars there to meet that request. But he said they could possibly be a little bit more aggressive in future in bringing out and rolling out EV Uber Green earlier rather than waiting until they've got a full complement of EVs to be able to offer it. And I think that's the way to go. I think if we had Uber Green, it would encourage drivers to move over to EVs because Uber Green pays more than the standard Uber X. And once people start seeing that there's jobs out there for Uber Green and with customers wanting to take that move into green and electric vehicles, then I think that will encourage drivers to take the risk and to move across. Okay, another question that was asked was about making pensions much clearer on the your weekly payment schedule, because at the moment when if you're part of a pension scheme, it just comes under general expenses in the weekly payout. And one of the drivers saying that actually your accountants need to know how much your pension payment is for your tax return. So that's something I'm going to be looking at, is maybe splitting off the pension out of that full sort of general expense system on your weekly summary, so you know exactly how much you've paid into your pension and how much you can claim on your tax for your pension payments. Another question that was raised was that when Uber first started, they used to record your online time, which is when you switch the app on to when you switch the app off, and also your drive time. Now that online time has disappeared and it's just the online time. Just the drive time, that active time, is now showing. It doesn't bother me too much because when I click clock on, I have my app, my smartphone, and I have a timer app, and I clock on and I hit the button and I start timing my shift. So I know how much I'm earning on a per hour basis. So I don't need that within the app, but some people may find that useful. It used to be there, but it's gone. It may come back. They just want to have a look at it. But I just use a normal timer and time my shift. Because when I fill up with fuel, that's part of my working day. If I go down a car wash, part of my working day. Vacuuming the car, it's all part of my working day and it needs to be paid for. Another question that was raised was about holiday pay now being incorporated into the jobs. So some of them would prefer it to carry on the way it used to be, where you got paid a lump sum every week, because people would use that and have a day off, or maybe use it for fuel, or maybe repair or something like that. That lump sum used to be really handy, and I feel as though that by including it within the trip payment, it's trying to boost up the trip payment a little bit and trying to con the drivers a little bit. I don't see that, because if you work for any other app, like Visa or anything like that, you just get your payments, and that has to include all your holiday pay. And that's why I work it. I don't think it does try and hide it. I think it should have just be your payment, and then you work out your own holiday and make your own arrangements for your own holiday. But this is the way it works now with Uber. It has to be separated with Uber. Doesn't yet with Visa. Visa will lose their case, and then they will have to pay holiday pay. And all they'll do, they'll just give you the same amount of money, but they'll just split it up between ride fare and holiday pay. That's all that will happen. And the big question I really wanted to answer for, and I did ask after the EV one, was what are Uber going to do to tackle driver cancellations? Because driver cancellations has killed the trade in Newport. When I first started doing it, like 10 months ago, there used to be a lot of regular customers. I'd go up, I knew I'd pick them up, I knew where they were going. Nurses were regular, quite a lot of nurses, going to work and coming back from work. You'd have people working up at the Tesco's, wholesalers going out to work. They won't come back, they'll get the bus back, but going out to work. And the Amazon, you always just take people out to the Amazon. But all of that regular trade is not there anymore. And a lot of complaints we used to get from people when they did use us was the amount of time it took to get the trip, and the amount of cancellations, and the amount of times that it used to be late for work because of Uber cancellations by drivers. So they've moved on. I mean, I still see them hanging around up at the station when they get off the train, and they just jump into the Vezo cart. They don't order Uber anymore because Uber can't get them to work on time because of driver cancellations. So they've got to do something. Don't know what, but they've got to do something. Maybe they'll follow what Vezo do. I mean, with Vezo, if you accept a job, and if you then cancel it after you've accepted it, you go into a 15 or a 20 minute sin bin, and you get fed no work for 15 or 20 minutes. Maybe something like that will have to happen. I don't know. But it's a big problem. It is impacting Uber. It is losing them a lot of regular trade, and it's also losing them on good jobs as well. I picked up a couple of weeks ago from Gatwick going into Cardiff, and we was talking on the way back, and I was saying how to do Uber as well, and the woman was saying, oh yeah, I like Uber for just general running around stuff, but I'd never trust them on a major job. I'd never trust them to get me to an airport. If I have an important meeting, you can't rely on them because they may cancel and you could wait hours before you actually get there. So for important stuff, they don't use Uber, they use other taxi companies. And Uber has got to deal with this. Other taxi companies can deal with it. They put sin bins on or they force you to do it. Why Uber doesn't? I don't know. And let's face it, at the moment, Vezo drivers are self-employed, they're not workers. They will go to worker status eventually when through the course, but at the moment they don't. And they're quite happy to fine, well not fine, but to penalise drivers who cancel by a sin bin. I think that's the way to deal with it. With Uber, put people into 15 minutes sin bin every time they cancel. So after that, I did have a chat with a nice guy up there, Joshua, somebody like that. Nice guy. I was just talking about one thing that I'd really like to see is a very simple, very easy way for a driver to block a rider without having to go through the rigmarole and go 5, 6 layers deep into the app to find that cancel or block rider, and then you have to put in an excuse as to why you want them to be blocked from them. It should just be straightforward, simple. In that little driver security box in the bottom left-hand corner, there should be an option to block rider, and you should be able to do it without having any excuse. Just block them. So that's what the other suggestion I made. So yeah, it was really interesting, well worth going to. I enjoyed it. Didn't get to taste the food. Why? Because I had to go out and do this second Bristol job of the day, Bristol Airport job of the day. But yeah, it was good. If you've been to one of them this year, let me know in the comments what sort of things you thought was useful to find out about. I'm certainly looking forward to the changes to the trip radar. That looks really interesting. As for the cash work, I'll just say no to cash work. Once I get the Ionic 5 on the road, I'll be coming off Uber X, and I'll only be working Uber Comfort, and if they ever bring it out, Uber Green in Cardiff, because the rates aren't high enough on Uber X to support that Ionic 5. But I've got plenty of airport working, and my own work's building up, so it's not really necessary. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. And until next time, drive safely and continue to make that profit.